There was this one night, dead of winter, snow blowing sideways, wind howling through every crack in my garage, when the space heater died and I soldered a circuit board with gloves on. That's how it started. My name's Todd. I'm 39. I live in Des Moines, Iowa. I built a company from the ground up with bare hands, scraped knuckles, and nothing but a stubborn idea that automation could be smarter, faster, cheaper. We didn't have funding. Hell, we didn't even have proper chairs. Just me, Keith, my buddy since high school, and two temps who'd never touched real hardware before. We worked shoulder to shoulder in that garage, cramped between shelves of salvaged gear and piles of open laptops running code that barely held together. Keith used to joke we'd all die of solder fumes before we made a dime. Maybe he wasn't joking. We cooked components on hot plates, strung together boards with scavenged wires from busted printers I bought off eBay. The first prototype looked like a toaster had swallowed a VCR, but it worked, barely, and that was enough. I remember the moment we powered it on, this ugly humming box with motors twitching like it was possessed. But it moved, it tracked, it adapted. We stared at it like idiots until Keith burst out laughing and yelled, "Patent that son of a bitch!" So we did. Took every cent I had and filed the paperwork. The first checks came slow. A couple mid-tier manufacturing firms wanted to license our tracking module. It wasn't a lot, but it meant someone out there believed in what we built. That kept us going. We started pushing harder. Nights blurred into mornings. I stopped paying rent on my apartment and just slept on a cot in the garage. Keith brought in an old coffee machine that leaked more than it brewed. The interns rotated out, but Keith stayed, and we made it work. That was when I felt it. The first time I actually let myself think, we're gonna make it. And that's exactly when I knew someone, somewhere, would want to take it all. Because what we had, it wasn't just code or metal or patents. It was potential. And potential makes people greedy. That suspicion turned real the morning a letter showed up. Not fan mail, not congratulations. A buyout offer. From a name I hadn't heard in years. I looked at Keith. "You know who this is?" He looked at the letter, then back at me. "Yeah," he said. "And they don't make friendly offers." I folded the letter in half, shoved it in the drawer under my workbench, and got back to the prototype. I never answered the buyout offer. We just kept building. And slowly, things got big. Real big. We moved out of the garage and into a proper office space. Nothing fancy, just an old warehouse outside Cedar Rapids that we turned into a half-decent lab. Then came the flood. Engineers, admins, designers, people I didn't know, shaking my hand and calling me sir. That's when Graham showed up, hired as CFO by our new advisory board. He was slick, tailored suits, spreadsheets for everything, always using words like burn rate and runway. I was still wearing jeans with holes in them and fixing our 3D printer with zip ties. "Look," Graham told me in one of our first sit-downs. "This company is poised for aggressive scaling, but you need to let go of some of the old systems. We need structure." I didn't like him. He didn't know a resistor from a relay, but he acted like he built the damn place. I just nodded and let him talk. What else could I do? By year 5, I had over a dozen patents with my name on them. Licensing deals rolled in from auto plants, robotics firms, even some government contractors. But every time I brought up a new idea or prototype, Graham shot it down. Too expensive, not scalable. Investors won't get it. What he didn't say out loud was, stick to inventing and stay out of the real business. That became the new tone around the office. I'd walk into meetings and see a bunch of suits arguing over numbers they barely understood. My inventions were on the whiteboards, sure, but nobody asked how they worked, just how fast we could sell them. One time, I spoke up during a board meeting, said we were cutting corners too fast, that some of the newer modules were overheating during load tests. Graham didn't even blink. "Todd, you're a genius, but we can't build perfection. The market doesn't wait for perfect." I wanted to say, yeah, the market doesn't deal with recalls either, but I kept my mouth shut. Then came Marcus. Graham brought him in as head of strategic innovation. That title didn't mean much to me until I saw his face. Younger, polished, all charm. He introduced himself with a wide smile and a firm handshake like we were at some damn networking event. "Can't wait to take your amazing work and get it into more hands," he said. Right there, I felt it. Something in his tone, like he already owned it. I watched Keith across the room, who gave me this tight-lipped look. He felt it too. We were expanding, sure, but every new hire, every extra floor of leased space, every investor dinner, it all pulled me further from the bench, from the thing I actually built. I gave Marcus 3 weeks before he started acting like he ran the place. Turned out I was being generous. He showed up to the next all-hands meeting wearing a wireless headset, walking around the conference room like a damn TED Talk was about to start. No slides, no notes, just buzzwords. Agile innovation, market disruption, value-first product loops. The board ate it up. I leaned toward Keith and muttered, "He ever touched a circuit board in his life?" Keith didn't answer, just kept his eyes forward like he was trying not to draw attention. The worst part? Everyone bought into it. Not just the suits, even the engineers, the new ones, mostly, started quoting him in meetings like he was some visionary. Meanwhile, I was still buried in the lab, trying to fix a glitch in our motion sensor algorithm that nobody else even understood. Then, meetings started popping up without me. Future strategy, product planning, next-gen ideas, no invite. I'd find out the next day from someone in the break room. "Oh yeah, we discussed that with Marcus yesterday," I asked Graham once. Why wasn't I looped into the roadmap meeting? He gave me this fake sympathy look and said, "We're just trying to streamline decision-making. You're more valuable focused on the engineering side." Right, stay in my corner, stay quiet. Then my lab budget got slashed. No warning, no explanation. Just a message from finance. Temporarily reduced until Q3 review. It didn't feel temporary. A few days later, I walked into the lab and stopped cold. Half my team was gone, moved upstairs to Project Nexus, whatever that was, replaced by a new manager named Dylan, who shook my hand like we were long-lost buddies. "We're reimagining the prototyping flow," he said, really leaning into design thinking. I stared at him. "You know what the compression ratio is on our actuator module?" He blinked. Not yet, but I've got it flagged." Flagged. Jesus. It wasn't just change, it was replacement. Quiet, systematic. And when I checked the internal roadmap, I found something that made my stomach drop. My adaptive vision tracking patent, the one I built in the garage, the one that launched this whole thing, was now listed under a new name, Orion Suite. No mention of me, no credit, no involvement. Just a shiny new logo and some rebranded garbage description that barely scratched the surface of what the tech could actually do. They weren't improving anything. They were cutting me out, piece by piece. 2 weeks later, I walked into the quarterly review with a USB drive in my pocket and every intention of owning the damn room. I'd spent 3 months building a new predictive motion engine. Wrote the code from scratch, tested it myself, ran the benchmarks on a weekend when nobody else was in the lab. I submitted my report, requested my usual 5-minute presentation slot, and sat down near the back, ready to speak when they called me. But when the lights dimmed and the projector kicked on, it wasn't my slides. It wasn't my code. It wasn't even my voice. Marcus stepped up like he'd been prepping for this all year. "We're calling this Project Horizon," he said, pacing in front of a sleek animated video with drone shots and fake interface mock-ups. "This is the future of adaptive motion AI." I froze. I watched my own algorithm, my work, get narrated over by this grinning fraud, dressed in a blazer I could have paid rent with back in the garage days. He butchered the explanation, left out the hard parts, the innovation, but nobody cared. The board nodded like bobbleheads. One of them actually clapped halfway through the presentation. My stomach dropped. I felt hot, then cold. I opened my mouth once, but nothing came out. No one said my name. No one asked where the core tech came from. Not a single board member even glanced at me. When the lights came back up, the room filled with applause. I sat there in silence, jaw tight, heart pounding, while Marcus soaked it in like a damn rock star. I got up, didn't speak, didn't look at anyone. Out in the hallway, I bumped into one of my old engineers, a guy I trained personally. He looked down and muttered, "Hey man," but didn't stop walking. The ones who stayed behind, the ones reassigned, they knew what was happening. They just didn't have the guts to do anything about it. I rounded the corner and ran straight into Keith. He didn't say a word, just handed me a folded piece of paper and walked away. I opened it. "This place doesn't deserve you." I folded it back up, slid it into my wallet, and walked to the elevator. That was the moment I knew. I couldn't yell, couldn't throw a chair. That's exactly what Marcus would want. Some messy exit to prove I was the unstable founder type they all talk about behind closed doors. So I swallowed it, and I started documenting every file, every draft, every email chain. I wasn't out yet. A week later, I got the email. Mandatory attendance, full board session, Friday 9 a.m., no subject line, no agenda, just that. I knew what it meant. When I walked into the boardroom, Marcus was already standing at the head of the table, sleeves rolled up, grinning like a showman. The shredder sat beside him, plugged in, humming softly. Everyone was there: Graham, the board, legal counsel, even HR. Nobody met my eyes. Marcus started slow. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge Todd for his early contributions. He helped us get where we are. He said it like I was already dead. Then he lifted a folder from the table, thick, creased, familiar. My original employment contract. The one I signed back in the garage days, before any investors, before the patents started stacking up. This, he said, holding it high, is what loyalty used to look like. But times change. He fed the first page into the shredder. The machine whirred, chewing through paper, the sound cutting through the silence. "This is what loyalty is worth," he said, locking eyes with me as the last sheet disappeared into confetti. Nobody spoke, not one damn person. I didn't move, didn't give him what he wanted. My hands were steady on the table. I could feel the heat in my chest, but I didn't let it show. He smirked. "We appreciate everything you've done, Todd, but we're moving in a new direction. The company needs new blood, fresh leadership, modern thinking. Your ideas are dated." I almost laughed. The guy who couldn't tell a voltage from a coffee voltage was calling my work outdated. He kept going, pacing in front of the board like he was performing. "We'll be restructuring R&D, and your position no longer aligns with our strategic objectives." "Strategic objectives," I repeated quietly, just loud enough for Graham to hear. He shifted in his seat, eyes down. Marcus stepped closer. "HR has your separation paperwork. We'd appreciate your cooperation in keeping this transition clean. No hard feelings." I stood, calm. I didn't grab my stuff, didn't argue. I just looked at him and said, "You're gonna regret this." He smiled wider, like that line had been scripted for him. I doubt it. The shredder clicked off. The smell of burnt paper hung in the air. I walked out without looking back. But here's the thing Marcus didn't know. That contract he shredded, it wasn't the real one. 5 years ago, my lawyer Eric and I rewrote the original agreement. Buried inside it was a clause that transferred patent ownership back to me if the company ever breached the original contract. And shredding it in front of witnesses, that was a breach, clear as daylight. So while Marcus stood there, playing corporate executioner, I was already planning his downfall. I left the building without saying goodbye, pulled out my phone in the parking lot. Dialed Eric. "It's time," I said. He didn't ask what I meant, just answered, "I'll start the paperwork." I didn't go out that night, didn't tell anyone what happened. I just went back to my apartment, tossed my keys on the counter, and sat down at the kitchen table with a cold beer and one hell of a grin. I opened my laptop and pulled up the file. Addendum 3, Patent Reversion Clause, signed 5 years ago. Witnessed, notarized, buried deep in legal jargon, right where nobody at that company ever bothered to look. I called Eric. He picked up on the second ring. "You sure you want to go forward?" he asked. "They shredded it, Eric, in front of the whole damn board." "Then yeah," he said. "They screwed themselves. Clause is valid. Trigger's clean. Those patents are yours again." No hesitation. No doubt. Just clean legal firepower. He emailed me the formal breach filing within an hour. I reviewed every line twice. It was solid. My tech, all 12 patents and every derivative product tied to them, was now officially mine again. The company could either pay me what I asked or watch half their product line go dark. Meanwhile, Marcus strutted around like nothing happened. I still had a few people on the inside, quiet ones, who kept me in the loop. He gave a speech 2 days after I left, bragging about a new era of vision-led leadership. Vision. Yeah, good luck selling vision when you don't own the code anymore. Eric and I waited exactly 1 week. Then he sent the breach notice to the company's legal department, CC'd the board, and attached a 30-day countdown. They didn't reply, not at first. I wasn't surprised. They thought they could ignore me, stall until it blew over. That's what guys like Marcus do. Bluff, posture, threaten lawsuits. But I wasn't bluffing. Every line of that clause was airtight. Once this hits the partners, Eric said, they'll have no choice but to respond. They can't license tech they don't own. That was the beauty of it. The house Marcus built was standing on ground I still controlled, so I waited. Day by day, the clock kept ticking. Eric tracked the message delivery, the read receipts, the silence. Think they'll fold? He asked. They will, I said. They just don't know it yet. Day 21, the cracks finally showed. A German partner flagged the patents in their due diligence report. They emailed the board directly, asking who actually owned the core modules in their automation package. That email got forwarded to me by a friend in compliance, no subject line, just one sentence. You should see this. Then my phone started ringing. 1 missed call, then 3, then 10. I didn't answer. I let them stew. By day 25, I had 3 licensing offers in front of me, one from a defense contractor, one from a robotics firm out of Boston, and one from an old name, the same company that tried to buy us out back when we were still soldering boards in my garage. The same group Marcus once called vultures. Eric and I met at his office that Friday. He spread the offers out across the conference table and pushed a coffee toward me. This one's the biggest, he said, tapping the vulture offer. They want exclusive rights, upfront cash, profit sharing, and you get full control of future licensing. They know the situation? Oh yeah, he said. Their legal team practically danced when they saw the clause. I nodded. Let's go with them. We sent the signed deal the next morning. The vulture had landed. Then came the final meeting. I walked into the same boardroom they'd shredded my contract in, this time wearing a pressed black button-down and carrying a leather folio. Nobody smiled. Graham looked pale. Marcus just stared at the table. I didn't sit. I just walked up, opened the folio, and placed the signed licensing agreement right in front of Marcus. He looked at it like it might explode. That's the new reality, I said. You'll pay me for every unit you sell from here on out. And when your investors ask why, you can tell them you burned the only guy who actually knew what he was doing. The room stayed quiet. I didn't wait for applause. I didn't need a thank you. I turned, walked to the door, and paused. Next time you try to erase someone, I said, looking straight at Marcus, make sure they don't keep receipts. I left the building without shaking a single hand. I don't know what they said after I left. I don't care. The patents were mine. The deal was done. And every product that moved forward would carry a piece of my name, paid for in full. Let them build the empire. I already built the foundation.